Welcome back to Talk of the Town on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
We welcome you back to Talk of the Town for this Monday, November the 16th. I'm Gary Stevens. We are glad you are with us today. And we'll be open line following the 11 o'clock news at the top of the hour right here on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC. But on this third Monday of the month, our 10:30 segment is devoted to chatting with the first-term Republican state senator from Hudsonville. He represents Ottawa County in the state Senate. Roger Victory is on the other end of our Zoom connection this morning. Roger, good morning. Hope all is well with you and the family and everybody at Victory Farms.
Good morning, Gary. Just want to always check. Is the audio coming in okay?
We're A-okay on this. So we're good.
Oh,
we're good.
We always start every meeting. That's the new thing in COVID. You always make sure all your Zoom conferences, they can hear you coming in. So
yes,
it's great to be joining with you on your radio this morning and all the listeners on WHTC today.
It sounds, it's that old Sprint commercial, can you hear me now? But if you got a question for Roger, no, you don't need to go on the Zoom connection. We'll be able to take it at 395-1450, 395-1450. First off, your thoughts about the governor's decision and announcement yesterday about the new restrictions that are put into place beginning on Wednesday at midnight involving COVID-19.
Yeah, I'll start out with my concern with the governor, and I would put out the challenge to the governor. Could you please, we would like to be a collaborative effort working together with the governor. And I could say a lot of different talking points, but here's what my frustration is. I, as Farmer Raj, knew what was coming down the channels on Saturday, but Senator Raj did not. So I find that a little bit alarming. As a senator, I find the details of the process on Sunday afternoon, but yet had a good inclination what was coming on Saturday because of my business. And I believe this is a situation we need to change, because we talk about some of the rules through Department of Health and Human Services were implemented. But today there was some fantastic news. I was listening out on the news, and you just did a little news bit there. Moderna, 95% efficacy rate on that vaccine. That is unheard of. It's just unbelievable. Pfizer last week, 90%. Now, with this vaccine, the supply is going to be limited. I encourage the administration reaching out with the legislators at this point in time, and let's start implementing a plan. How will that vaccine get implemented throughout the state of Michigan? What resources do we need to have? Can we come with a collaborative effort that we're not at the 11th hour finding out the details about this or that, and when we could have a more effective and more thorough administration of that vaccine to those who need it and most effectively, and that component. So this is just another example that I put the challenge out. Instead of this or that, let's work collaboratively together and see what we can do for the betterment of Michigan.
395-1450. Good morning. You're on the line with State Senator Roger Victory.
Yeah, hi. I keep hoping that every month we'll hear a different take from the senators about what's going on. It's always back to we don't hear anything from the governor. She doesn't talk to us. We don't do this. Yeah, it's awesome that we have a vaccine coming up. But all I know is that as of last night, our Thanksgiving's been canceled because everybody in the family is concerned about it. And I'm glad that the governor is taking a definitive approach to it and trying to protect the people of Michigan. But it seems like every month, we have Republicans on this side, and I vote Republican 99% of the time. But the Republicans are just always commiserating amongst themselves about how bad the governor treats them and how she doesn't talk to them and all this kind of stuff. She's at least trying to protect people's lives. And if you heard the previous show in the last half hour with Spectrum Zealand, with where they're at and the fire that's happening, I mean, it sounds like you guys are trying to figure out how to ask her to give you more water, and she's got the hose and she's actually trying to put out the fire. So every month it's the same story from it could be Brad Slott, could be you, could be Eric Nesbitt, Jim Lilly, everybody's saying the same thing about talking about how they're complaining about the governor. It's like, you guys need to get off the ball and start doing something, because it looks like you're doing nothing but complaining every month. And I'm really happy about the vaccine, but that doesn't stop lives from being saved now.
Your thoughts, Roger? Thank you very much for the call.
Well, yeah, to rebuke the caller, that's why we are reaching out to the governor. We have Mike Shirkey and Chatfield have put out the olive branch to the governor and say, Governor, can we move things forward? We have resources. We have understanding of things too. And that way with the House, the Senate, and the executive branch, think of how better this all could be for all the residents of Michigan. And that's why we continue to say that on the radio here is, again, remember how I start out the conversation. I reach out and I encourage the administration, please be collaborative with the legislative body. And that's the approach I will continue to go forward with. And to get there again, I appreciate the insight of the caller, but there again, a good team effort is much more effective solving this issue of COVID than isolated islands of each body of government.
A response to State Senate Majority Leader Mike Shirkey's remarks that was released as the press briefing was going on last night. This is from the president and CEO of Trinity Health Michigan, Rob Castillo. Mike, as a member of the medical community you claim you are working with, we don't see you. One phone call with our CMOs does not constitute working with us. We have told you we are in trouble, but you decided the pandemic was a good time to take a vacation. End quote. That's the tweet from Rob Castillo of Trinity Health Michigan, Roger.
Yeah, there's a little bit of partisan aspect. It's and this is where I like to remove a little bit what we've the DC attitude, and let's, as Michigan form of government, let's get collaborative. Let's get beyond the harshness of some of these tweets and those components. And ultimately, let's see once we can solve the issue of COVID. I'm a true advocate, even at our business. You got to be smart about proper protocols. I have right in my vehicle right now, I'm not wearing my mask for this interview, but I have this mask right on hand. That's, yeah, I would say it's not proper protocol to have to do in a Zoom conference with a mask on, but as soon as I leave this vehicle and enter any business of that, this will be on, because that's a part of the process. Also, just the social distancing. These are things. So some of the thought process, and I had good conversation with members of our community, and as our rates continue to go up, I'm sure most of the listeners probably have a family member that has been affected by COVID. It is real. It's starting to affect us in a personal context. With that understanding is, do you push people or pull people? And through process of making sure you're informed, because if you're trying to put, herd cats at times, how effective is that versus a method of informing? People can form their decisions and giving those insights and components. So you need a balance of this approach as we deal with this COVID as we come forward into this season where the rates will be going up. So what is the most effective measure on it? We've seen how the method was worked out in March and some of the results of that. And I always believe a good hybrid of it going forward. And that's where, in order to form that, that's where I call on the administration. Can we have a collaborative discussion and a collaborative results to addressing COVID in the state of Michigan, and especially right here in West Michigan and right here in Ottawa County? Because our healthcare providers, you can see what's happening there. I've been in dialogue with them. And yes, we have the patient loads increasing. There's stress on the medical system. And we want to make sure that if case there's a medical emergency, if I happen to have a heart attack or something of that nature there's still healthcare capacity to address those needs. And that's just about me, but anyone in West Michigan that needs medical attention, that those hospital beds are available.
395-1450. Let's get to a call. Good morning. You're on the line with State Senator Roger Victory.
Good morning. I wanted this is, of course, to Roger. I agree with that caller about you guys are, you try to talk a good game, but you really by the time you get around to doing anything, by all your committees and everything, somebody's got to take the lead and take care of everything. That's just and the governor, I think, does a very good job in Michigan. And that's just my comment. Bye.
Thank you very much for the call. Before we get to Roger, let's get to another call. Good morning. You're on the line with State Senator Roger Victory.
Roger, I am disappointed that you boys and girls in government can't play together. It's about time you get off your A's and get into the office. Make it a mandatory meeting. Make something happen. You're not working for the people that voted you in. We are tired of it. We, the people, need some action. Thank you.
Appreciate the call. Roger, your response to those two calls.
Well, last week, Thursday, the Senate was in session. We were doing deliberative conversation. We were making sure that the concerns of the residents of Ottawa County and the state of Michigan going forward. Again, there's issues of COVID, there's issues of budgets, there's those things, and we are continuing to moving forward on that. And as I get done with this radio show here, I will continue making some calls and doing the work of the people and making sure that as we address these new regulations, how can they be met? Addressing concerns of some of the business owners and also constituents, and making sure that we're representing the people of Ottawa County and all Michiganders in this time of COVID.
395-1450, 395-1450, Peg.
Quick question. Do you have any remarks or reaction to the Free Press story that says that President Trump's top coronavirus advisor, Scott Atlas, tweeted out after Governor Whitmer's press conference, quote, "The only way this stops is if people rise up. You get what you accept," unquote, to which Whitmer said she was horrified by that remark. And he said he was never talking at all about violence, but he also didn't delete the tweet. And that has been referenced back to the president's tweet earlier that was indirectly linked to the plot to kidnap and possibly kill Whitmer, for which 14 people are now charged. But the main question is, what's your response when federal officials make those kinds of statements about rising up?
Yeah, as Senator Victory, I concentrate on how do we respond to this uptick in COVID that we see here in Ottawa County. And those are issues that we work with our healthcare providers, such as we had a message from Spectrum, and keeping those dialogues going forward. How do we continue to implement best practices, working with our business community, making sure that they have the resources available, making sure that we have protective materials available, testing. Right now, one of the issues we have is even with our own business, we continue to do testing, thoroughly testing, and the time delay of getting the test results. It's actually getting to a point that's kind of concerning, because the effectiveness of testing means quick results. But when you have to wait 5 days for the test results, that can be problematic. So as I continue to work and address the needs of COVID concerns, I continue to focus on how do we move the needle right here in West Michigan, and implementing best practices and making sure that our business community, our schools, and each individual has the means available to make sure that they can have a safe and secure environment.
Peg, you had a follow-up?
The only follow-up was just quickly, the state legislature actually passed a law giving the Department of Health and Human Services the authority to issue these kinds of orders. Are you suggesting that those, that law should be amended some way, and how would you amend it?
And well, one aspect is, what is the parameters of the Department of Health and Human Services implementing these rules? Remember, the agencies cannot implement law, but they can implement rules. And then there's some guidance of these rules given through law. So with it is, what is the science they're using to develop these rules? And that's where, again, I would always reach out. Could we have a collaborative discussion how to implement these rules? Because some of these, there is a reason why these departments have rules, because of health concerns. And so those tools should be made available, and how are they implemented, and how sharply are they implemented? And so that's part of the discussion.
395-1450, 395-1450. You're on the line with State Senator Roger Victory. Good morning.
Hello. I'm pleased with the line of thought today. I just wanted to say that I totally agree that there's a bunch of whining going on and not much work. Thank you.
I appreciate the call. 395-1450, 395-1450. Roger, I'm going to throw this question. I threw it at Eric Nesbitt an hour ago. I'm going to throw it at you as well. While we are in this situation, a 2-week-long break from actual sessions going on in the legislature. Some of the members are hopefully making sure that we don't hit any more deer, but certainly, some are saying with some justification that maybe in this situation, it's an emergency situation, the lawmakers should be in Lansing and maybe trying to at least show people that, hey, they're on the job and they're working.
And there is a session day scheduled for the Senate, and that is because when we left last week Thursday, so this coming week there is a day on the calendar, and so if needed be implemented, the Senate Majority Leader or the Senate Floor Leader can call us in, so that is an option out there. So overall, they are on break, but there is a day on the schedule, so that way, because there's rules and regulations that we just can't spontaneously call a day of session because they have to have notifications, etc., and that's a part of the rules of the Senate, and so that there is a capacity to do that. So the tool is readily available if needed in this time of COVID.
I want to take a moment to divert from our discussion about the state and COVID, Roger, to a press release we just got from the office of U.S. House Representative Tim Walberg. He has received a positive COVID-19 test. Quote, I received news yesterday that I tested positive for COVID-19. My symptoms are mild and I remain in good spirits. It has been more than a week since I've attended a public event. In conjunction with health officials, my office and I are in the process of reaching out to individuals I had contact with before my self-isolation began. Throughout this pandemic, the work of our healthcare professionals and frontline workers have been nothing short of heroic, and I continue to be grateful for their dedication. As we enter the winter months, I encourage everyone to remain vigilant and adhere to public health guidelines to combat this virus. And finally, I will continue serving constituents of the 7th District and carrying out my responsibilities from home until I fully recover. I'm appreciative of people's prayers and best wishes, end quote. Tim Walberg, the latest, Roger, we had Bill Heisinger come down with a positive test last month. It's there.
Yep, that just like how we began the show. COVID is real. It's something that we have to be very concerned of because as most of the listeners on the show probably know of some way in their immediate family that has had COVID or currently is recuperating with COVID. And that is something that's why I continue to highlight. Let's put it this way. You cannot rely on a governor. You cannot rely on a senator for all the answers to COVID. I truly believe each individual needs to understand the seriousness of COVID, using best practices, like, and I hold up my mask right here, and social distancing. And I believe the individual is probably the best guide to making those judgment calls. Again, a governor or a senator like myself, we can say 25 for a gathering, or you should have only 2 immediate families coming together. I encourage the listeners out there, think this over. Use what they have better knowledge. They have a better feel of their family, their surroundings than a senator would or a governor would. Implement those practices because I want to make sure our listeners on this great audience are here next month to be able to listen to the show next year, because we did highlight in the show here, Moderna, the vaccines are very close on hand. It's coming, but in the meantime, we have a bridge to span that time period. And that's where I believe each individual needs to step up, put best practices forward. And again, a governor can give guidelines. They can, agencies can introduce rules. Senators can say their piece. I really encourage the audience out there to take it, review it for themselves, and how do they implement it going forward.
Let me ask you to put on your other hat with Victory Farms. How are you handling the situation in terms of Victory Farms with its employees to make sure they stay safe?
As I mentioned too, we're implementing testing process. So basically, without getting too much details of HIPAA laws and things like nature, but we did a employee-wide testing at Victory Farms, along with other businesses have done the same thing, and also implemented the personal protective materials in those areas. And because we have to, one is we're essential employment here, and it's critical for our team members to have a safe and secure environment. And it's making sure that trust too. That's a lot of it there. I think it is how to implement trust among, regardless what entity it is, at the business area, or just like today on the radio here. We're doing this by Zoom because I think this is a much smarter method. Why, instead of going to the studio, we can still make sure we have good communications with the people of West Michigan and the audience at WHTC, and we're doing it smart and a method that I believe is a part of the practice that we just implement through our society.
We're talking with State Senator Roger Victory. Got a couple of minutes left. We'll take a call if need be at 395-1450. Obviously, the discussion today is dealing with the novel coronavirus and the governor's actions of yesterday and moving forward over the next 3 weeks. I'm going to ask you, maybe we can do crystal ball work. Do you get a sense that eventually we are going to see some cooperation between the executive and the legislative branches on this, especially as we get into the Christmas season? Or is this still a Cold War that really does not have a solution for it right now?
I believe there has been more discussion. So again, there's been some partisan discussion on all fronts, but I have seen movement coming together, specifically at some of the agencies and directors, some areas, and there has been steps. I say 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards, and but I do believe if we could have a collaborative dialogue, among the administration and the legislative body, it would be for the betterment of Michigan. And so there are going to be times, such as we saw on Sunday. It's very frustrating as a member of the legislative body, hearing that news after the fact as a business owner, hearing some of the aspect of it. But we continue to go forward because there are needs and governance needs to be done. So again, I always encourage the administration continue to reach out to us elected officials, because I will be there to listen, and because it's my goal to represent the good people of Ottawa County and making sure we can make it through this time of COVID.
He is State Senator Roger Victory. We'll put a link to your Senate page when we put the podcast of our conversation on our website at WHTC.com in a little while later on today. As always, Roger, we appreciate the time you spend with us, not only today, but on a monthly basis. And if all goes well, let's do this again next month, shall we?
We'll do, Gary. And again, I appreciate the calls, because that's a part of representing the area, hearing all viewpoints. So it's been a blessing to be on the show today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, State Senator Roger Victory on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.